We acknowledge your presence, Samantha ji. We acknowledge your presence, Misha ji, Robert ji, and Tres ji. And we acknowledge presence of all our viewers from different parts of the world who are or will be watching us later. The topic of our panel discussion today is very important. Peace and happiness is the goal of every goal of life, as they say. The panel discussion will talk about yoga and happiness. As we know that human beings are the most intelligent and least happy species on the planet. So we will try to inquire upon what has gone wrong and how to fix it. So let me begin with Samantha ji. Samantha ji, my question to you would be, what has gone wrong? Everybody sees happiness, but nobody is happy almost. There are lots of surveys telling us how miserable we are. So what went wrong? Samantha ji.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that was going to be my first question. Okay, well, what went wrong? Generally the mind, the grasping and the need and the comparison and the wanting, consumerism, money. I think most of these are what have gone wrong with happiness. When we're not striving or comparing or wanting to be something we're not, then we are definitely a lot happier. And our world doesn't really allow for that. It's you have to do this, you've got to be this, you have to do that, and you've got to get married, you have to have a house, you have to have a degree, you have a certain amount of money, and then you're someone.
Thank you very much. Samantha ji said, I remember Mahatma Gandhi saying it, that world has enough for everybody's need, but not enough for a single person's greed. So she said that, yes, it's the need, comparison, money, consumerism, lots of things that has contributed in making us miserable. We'll come to Rob Miller ji also. What do you think? What went wrong?
Well, as a high school teacher, let's see, I watched the 11 and 12-year-old boys enter the school, and they're very happy, and around about, year 9 or year 10, when they're sort of 14, 15, 16, I watched the heaviness sort of descend upon them. I watched the dominance of the mind begin to assert itself. And then in their final years of high school, unfortunately, it's not an uncommon thing to see, some very negative mental health symptoms that manifest themselves. So, yeah, I would certainly agree with what Samantha says. It is absolutely the dominance of the mind, the ego, the intellect, and the senses. That's where the problems generally sort of
Rob Miller ji reminds us of Jesus saying that the kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are childlike. And he said, we find children are very happy. But as you grow old, as you reach teen, happiness decreases. Probably the wrinkles on the face also appears, wrinkles on the mind also. He also mentioned about ego, intellect, boosting up as you grow old and further your age proceeds. So now we know in a bigger shell that the mind is the problem. Ego, mind, intellect, probably properly not placed or taken care of, is the problem that has snatched happiness from the world. So we reach to the problem statement. But now let's go to the solution statement. We have two wonderful experts with us. Now, once we know that this mind is the problem, because this is the mind that needs, that wants, that compares. So how to re-establish our mind back to the purpose of life, that is peace and happiness? It is my question to Tres Luji.
Thank you. Okay, what's the solution? I think the solution, well, first of all, is to not allow our the things we attach to, or our image, or who we think we are. We identify with our appearance, the job we keep, the degree we have, the house we own, the possessions, as Samantha said. We identify with those, and I think we have to go back to realizing that we're not those. And basically that's it. I think that we do determine who we are by what we have, by our possessions, and our ego, obviously, the mind, because that lives in the mind. And I think when we can let that go and understand that, or separate from that, I think we have the space to observe who we really are, and our purpose, really.
Perfect.
I mean, we come in with, certain appearances. So we start to think we're this or we're that. And then we start to design ourselves accordingly to what we think. And then we attach ourselves to those things that make us who we think we are.
Thank you. Treslogy went deeper in mentioning that the wrong identification, or what Rob Millerji mentioned about ego, the labels we put on self and to on others also. The designations, gender, race, religion, lots of label, nationality we put, and the label I have put on myself, the similar kind of label I put on others also, and that leads to my attachment and aversion. So probably not labeling others is the solution, or not labeling self also is the solution, as Treslogy said. But is that all that easy, not labeling? The moment I was born in India, I was an Indian. And the moment I was born as a Hindu, I was called an Hindu. I'm supposed to worship Lord Shiva. And all the nations which were against India, I have to see them with a strange eyes, because I have put a label on myself as Indians. So is that all that easy, Misha ji? As it is that easier said than done. Not labeling people. Even gender is a label. All these are labels. Is it that easy not to label?
It's certainly not easy. A lot of the practice, though, can be simple, even if it's not easy. So, just observing a single breath can be simple, and it can give me an idea of who I am in that moment and where I'm located right in that moment. You were asking why are we not happy anymore? According to the classical scholar of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, Vyasa, he said that on a metaphysical level, suffering is the result of rajas disturbing sattva. And when disturbed, when it's undisturbed, sattva itself produces a type of happiness. So if we can actually become human beings again, rather than human doings, we can solve a lot of the issues of not being happy. And I feel for myself and for the students that I am working with, that if we can reconnect with the natural rhythms, the sunrise, the natural rhythms of waking early and getting into the rhythm. Actually, this topic is something that immediately that came to mind for me about happiness was Pharrell Williams' song, from Minions 2 or something. I wanted to play that song and get everybody up and dancing, but we don't have a lot of time. And actually that song, there's something to say. It's a very rhythmic song. I can't really help myself dancing to that song. And if we want to be happy in ourselves, we have to find the rhythm that our heart sings to through daily rhythms in life that Ayurveda can also support us to reconnect with. Food, our lifestyle habits, what time I go to sleep, and the people that I connect with are all important facets of yoga. And it's all there in the yama and the niyama, actually, right at the basis of the 8 limbs. Those really important relationships that I have with others and with myself will then help me to create that happiness moment by moment by moment and re-find it if I have lost it also.
Thank you. Thank you. Misha ji mentioned that be in the moment, observe the breath. And she said a very interesting thing. She said, when the activity or rajas overlaps and encroaches the balance that is sattva, then happiness goes down. So we need to refocus on human being rather than doing, that is rajas, and to align with the natural rhythms of the universe. But having understood this, I'll ask Samantha ji, how can I teach anybody to be human being rather than doing when lots of peer pressure is there? I, as a kid, as Robji said, really wanted to lead my life as row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. As a kid, I was in a dream, but then there was a lots of peer pressure which converted me from human being to human doing. Now, how to reverse this process? How to teach people? How should I begin to be human being rather than human doing predominantly? Over to you, Samantha ji.
So when everybody is a human being or human doing all the time, I think it's very important to just bring in little changes, because that's how it's possible. Because everyone's like, well, how can I do this? And those little moments, which is why I love working with people individually and coaching, is throughout the week, mindfulness, perhaps while eating, or instead of checking the social media on your work break, you take a little walk and just be present and look and see and smell. It's, the first sutra, yoga is now. Yoga begins now. So just bringing presence into every day, wherever you can, is huge. It's easily forgotten, but that's why you have somebody to remind you. But if you bring presence into your life every day, you can't help but experience some form of joy. I mean, contentment, and all of a sudden you see a bird or a butterfly, or something you wouldn't notice before. So I think it's very simple, but
perfect. So Samantha, you really gave us a very simple answer that everybody can connect. How to be human being. She said, in order to be being, be in the moment. This is what is being. And for that, go for mindfulness. As once Raman Maharshi was asked, which is your favorite asana? He replied, Nididhyasana, practice. That is my favorite asana. Practice it daily. So she said, practice meditation, mindfulness daily. One thing at a moment, one thought at a moment, one day at a moment. Probably it will help us to reduce rajas, the pace with which we are going, and go little by little, step by step. That's very, very commendable, Samantha ji. She also called upon, instead of focusing on selfie on social media, let's focus on self. Thank you. Now I'll come back to Robert Miller ji. Robert Miller ji, in order to be from doing to being, getting established happiness back, what are your quick tips to our audience, which are executionable? What do you think? What can be done?
I'm going to answer that by sort of talking about what I do. Actually, as a careers advisor, a lot of what I'm doing is actually guiding these young men into their human doing aspect. But and that opportunity gives me, the chance to connect with them. And my little secret, my little joke is that I sort of say, hey guys, look, I only pretend to be a teacher. I'm not really a teacher. And so I guess as a careers advisor, I have the opportunity to serve the young people that come through my door, and also to connect with them. And so, it is that quality of relationship. And I recall this, very well from Yoga Sangha. There was a sign up on the wall, and it said, if you want to know how your yoga's going, consider how your relationships are going. And that was just such an important sort of takeaway. And so in Karin's, lovely introduction, that's what I meant when I sort of said I try to bring the spirit of yoga and yoga therapy into my practice, and actually to be an example of it. So rather than I don't talk much in terms of yoga and yoga therapy and the language and the technology, I'd just like to try and bring that spirit.
That's amazing. Few important things Rob G mentioned. He said that first, be grateful for what is given and you'll be more happy in life. Thank God for whatever I have got. Second, he said, I pretend to be a teacher. So he's trying to say that I know I'm not actually a teacher. It is a role. So Rob Miller Ji, in a way, is very clearly differentiating between my role plan of this incarnation and my soul plan. My role purpose and my soul purpose has to be made more clear. That's quite amazing. And he said, if you want to know how your yoga is proceeding, see how your relationship is developing, because yoga stands for connect. And you need to lead by example. Don't talk about yoga, live yoga. As they say, preach Bible and speak nothing. That's amazing. Rob Miller Ji. So let's ask Treslu Ji also. Your quick tips to our audience. How to lead life happily. What can be done yogic way? What are the yogic means for a happy living? Executionable, practical tips which they can use from tomorrow.
What would I suggest? Count to 10 before you kind of act. Sort of counting means you're doing something, so you can take a pause rather than trying to find the void in order to do nothing, because like we've just mentioned, we are doing, and the way you can be being is to slow it down and just pull yourself back a little bit, and just so you've got that space. So you can count to 10, or you can pause and you can take a breath and just say, okay. So each time you do that, you can be intercepting the pattern of rush and doing and constantly going, because we're pushed into a lot of that rush and doing and you have to be there, you have to be here, what's on the phone, what's, you know, on the emails, what's here, what's there, and we're living in, it is very hard. So you can do the little pauses. If you can't count to 10, count to 3, and create that little bit of space between the next doing or the next action.
Perfect. She mentioned take a pause. Yes, you carry on, Treslu Ji.
No, I mean, that would be a good start in bringing an awareness, because then it opens up the space for all the other things that we've been talking about so far. Is just
that's really great. Thank you. She said take pauses. As I read somewhere that in between in-breath and out-breath, there is a pause. And in that pause, samadhi happens. So that's really amazing. And Jesus said once, be still and know I'm your God. But in order to know that, you need to be still. So count 1 to 10, have pauses, and it will help you to be in the moment. Misha Ji, your quick tips to the audience watching us. You mentioned about Ayurveda, you mentioned about lifestyle, you mentioned about having good people around, you mentioned about yamas, niyamas also. Any quick tips that can be done from tomorrow onwards?
Well, I think as a yoga therapist, Ayurveda is definitely a big aspect of my work. And knowing your own doshic propensities, I was making some dinner before this session, and I noticed how much I was enjoying making that food. And, you know, I am pretty much kapha, pitta, dosha, prakriti. So, you know, knowing what your own particular peculiarities are, which is another Dr. NC quote, but, you know, knowing yourself and what turns you on, basically, and doing more of that in whatever way it's available to you is a really good start in whatever situation you find yourself. You might not be able to do a lot more of it, but even if you do a little more of it, it will start to just drip, 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 and make a difference in your life. That's my final word for today.
She says know your personality type, tridoshas, and then lead your life accordingly, Ayurveda way. And she also says know what makes you happy. Repeat what makes you happy, and avoid things which are making you unhappy. So that's nice. And we have seen it, Misha Ji, people who are in depression, they selectively remove those those things that keep them happy. They start removing all those things that keep them happy, and finally they go in depression step by step. So that's very profound what you said. So all of you friends, what you mentioned is very profound and important for me keeping myself happy. But what about others? Look, I learned this. I have started doing all this. When others come and trigger something, I myself alone, not disturbed by anybody, will remain happy by default. But when others, siblings, relatives, boss, environment, bills, they trigger me, then everything, all these learnings go in vain and I get disturbed. Any quick tips? How to have a shield against the environment, against such, if such thing happens? I'll go to Samantha ji for one-liner quick tip.
Okay, very similar to what Misha and Therese said. It's just pause. I mean, I want to say more. I want to say when the more you do a daily practice, the more these things don't affect you as long. So yes, you react. We're normal, we're human, we're going to react, but we bounce back a lot more quickly. And you had that pause and you realize it's not that bad.
Perfect.
Is that quick enough?
She mentioned Nididhyasanam. She mentioned Nididhyasanam. Practice, pause, practice, response. Perfect. Great. Not react. Now, Rob Millerji.
Look, my answer is going to be very similar. You know, it's all in the recovery, isn't it? And it's the practice that allows you to recover, you know, quite quickly. I mean, we're not, you know, life is no bed of roses. I mean, there are the roses and there are the thorns, right? And you can't really pretend that there aren't going to be some challenges, and we have to expect that, and we have to sort of deal with it, and we have to sort of, I guess, you know, let our practice sort of, you know, show us the way how to deal with those challenges, in fact.
Perfect. He said, just like, it reminds me of that Japanese sand doll, which has a sand at the bottom. If you hit it, it goes down, but again bounces back immediately. So bounce back, it is very much important. Yes, environment will push you down. You will go down for sure, it happens. But how fast you come. And for that, he said, don't avoid it, because whatever you resist shall persist. He said, expect and respect challenges. They will come in life, and this is what life is. Very profound, Robji. Now I'll go to Treslu. Practical suggestion to create a shield around.
I was going to say what you just said, expect it, because life happens and it's going to happen. But if you're moving and you're being very like, you know, vritti, jitta, vritti, you know, and you're moving like this, and life is doing the same, then it's just adding to that rajas, and, you know, and that pattern. So I would say expect it, but sit back and expect it. You don't have to go into it. So just create that thing about, you know, the observing, watching what's going on, pull yourself back, and the recovery is very important, because when you've been knocked around, how do you get your feet back up again? Like, you know, you must take those, know how to rest. I notice people don't know how to rest. So, you know, it's in our yoga practice, but yeah, maybe, sorry, that was first sentence.
So Tresluji added what Robji said, that it's fine that we need to respect, but don't invite, go and invite it. If such situations comes, you respect it. And this is how you can win over your patterns of life, probably. Misha ji, your quick tips.
So once again, as a, you know, when my pitcher is out of balance, I don't actually find it easy to create the shield between the incoming and the outgoing. So I find it useful then to use humor. And what comes to mind is a song by Willie Nelson, and it's a bit of a satirical song, and, you know, it's kind of like, oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I can't wait to look in the mirror. I get better looking each day. To know me is to love me. I guess I'm a hell of a man. Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble, but I'm doing the best that I can. And for me, I just find that's a real breaker, a circuit breaker. If I'm really taking myself so seriously and getting head up about things, which is quite easy for me to do, it just kind of cuts that ego and reminds me, hey, just don't take everything so seriously, just laugh at myself a little bit more and let it go a bit more. So, and with that, I actually have to go myself. I'm really sorry, but I need to leave. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you very much for such a beautiful points that you read, you said, and the song you sung was really amazing. I'm going to Google it and listen it fully. Thank you.
Bye.
She said, she mentioned that at times it happens when the setup gets, otherwise we get upset about it. She said, use humor. Sing a song. Don't take life too seriously. When you smile at life, life smiles at you back. So dear friends who are watching us from different parts of the world, this was our panel discussion. We have our amazing speakers from different places in Australia. And let me just conclude what we discussed today. The topic was yoga and happiness. And Samantha ji started saying this, that it's the mind that snatches the happiness. We have needs, comparisons, money, consumerism, lots of things that happens. And Robert Miller mentioned that when we were a child, we all were happy. But then later years with the wrinkles on face, even wrinkles on mind happens. Ego intelligence also increases the problem in that. Treslu said that we need to assure not to have wrongly identifying ourselves with limited identities of egos and labels, and whatever is our identity, we get attached to it. And as a solution, and then Misha ji added that as a solution, observe your breath, be in the moment, because rajas makes us move fast. Balance and sattva is important for that. Start being human being rather than doing. For that, being in the rhythm of the nature. You see, it reminds me of Lao Tse. Lao Tse once said, look at the nature. In nature, nobody is in rush, but all work are done. All its works are done, but nobody is in rush. So be in the natural rhythm. Follow Ayurveda. She mentioned do yoga. Have a standard yogic lifestyle on daily basis. Remain in the company of positive people rather than intoxicating people. Learn, know yamas and niyamas and follow them. Improve your relationship with yourself. It will help you to improve your relationship with others. Samantha ji added in that, if you really want to improve your relationship with self, go step by step. As Raman Maharshi said, Nididhyasana is the best asana. Samantha ji mentioned about mindfulness. Shift from selfie to self. It will help you to slow down the process, be in the moment, sink in the moment. And to add that, Rob ji added, pretend, know that it's your role plan, not your soul plan. Your soul plan is big. So differentiate between your roles you play and who you are actually. Be grateful every moment for whatever is given, because if you are not grateful, you are grateful. And then he mentioned about that yoga is a relationship that connects me to myself, lead by example, as they say, preach Bible and speak nothing. Be the change that you want to see. That is very important. Tresluji added, start counting 1 to 10. It will help you to have pauses. And in that pause, be still. It will help you and give you some time to reflect back, and your journey from reaction to response will start happening. And then Samantha ji added, every moment it is important to take pause, practice, and then response. To that, Robert Miller ji mentioned that we really need to learn how to bounce back. And how to bounce back? Whenever challenges from the environment comes to you, expect challenges to come and respect when they come. It's fine. This is what life is. There are roses and there are thorns also. To that, Tresluji said, yes, expect them, but don't invite them. Go and invite them. Fine. Never forget to smile at life. Life will smile at you back, because whatever you resist shall persist. And then Misha ji said that whenever such challenges come, use humor. It really helps. Don't take life very seriously. We have been incarnated thousands of times, and we may be coming thousands of times, and we are nothing but a speck of dust in this universe. So let's not take it that seriously. Use humor, use song, and she sang a song for us. And I'm sure that all of you who are watching us, you must also have enjoyed this discussion on yoga and happiness. And we wish you very happy, healthy, and prosperous life with International Yoga Week. Thank you very much, respected guest over here, and all the viewers. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you.